Good evening. Health authorities have...
These vehicles may or may not have mechanical...
It will be a trial within a trial.
Libby's Neimer at the Ontario...
The city does have a bylaw that requires...
August 27, 1987. This is Toronto. Legislated back. Anti-nukes pressure. And round he goes. CityPulse with Gord Martineau and Roskowski and the CityPulse news team bring you Toronto's news.
Good evening. The beginning of the end of the national rail strike. The trains could be rolling again by Saturday.
Parliament is debating legislation ordering striking railway workers back to work. Our Ottawa specialist, Libby Neimer, says all three parties have agreed to push the legislation through.
There's nothing to smile about.
Talks broke off this morning, and as far as the unions were concerned, they had wasted the last 2 weeks. Their next worry was what would be in the back-to-work legislation that was about to be introduced in Parliament.
Now we're going up in that bill. And we know that we haven't got too many friends up there, but at least we'll be soliciting the people we know up there that if and when they have to legislate, they legislate us into a fair manner.
Point of order. Minister. Mr. Speaker,
It was a relief when the minister rose to introduce the bill. Instead of imposing a settlement, he put everything in the hands of an arbitrator.
The important thing is that the workers get back to work, that the trains get back on the rails, and we feel that the arbitration was the appropriate mechanism in this particular case.
The next question was, would the opposition parties agree to waive normal parliamentary rules so debate on the legislation could begin today rather than tomorrow? The answer was yes, even though they have some reservations about the arbitration process.
The negotiators have had their round. Now it's up to us as parliamentarians to examine what the implications are, both in terms of the long-range effect on the economy and a fair deal to the people involved.
The House may work through the night to get through the legislation. The Senate has been recalled for tomorrow so it can give its assent to the back-to-work bill. And if everything goes according to plan, the railroads could be back in business as early as Saturday. Libby Neimer, Independent Satellite News, Parliament Hill.
I feel the government was correct in legislating the railway workers back. I feel that transportation is an essential industry and the workers should not have the right to strike.
I think any essential services should not be allowed to strike. They're creating all kinds of havoc for the rest of the people.
No one should have that much of a privilege to cripple a country to meet their demands, even though they may be justified. No one can hold the whole population accountable for their immediate needs.
There are certain services that are essential, and I believe that is one of those. For instance, I happen to live in Pickering, and I've had to stay here in town all week. And, it's just a matter of you're away from home, and it really has impacted on my work life.
There is some progress reported tonight in talks to head off a transit strike. A provincial mediator says there are still a number of unresolved issues, but there is slow, steady progress. The two sides have been talking for 8 days. Transit workers will be in a legal strike position September 7th. More trouble tonight for Canada Post. Inside workers voted 75% in favor of strike action to back their contract demands. Union President Jean-Claude Parot says a walkout in late September seems inevitable unless Canada Post makes substantial changes in its position. Job security, the main issue.
Metro Police investigating one of their own tonight after an incident at the CNE where cleaners are picketing. Lauren Honigman tells us tonight CityPulse was there when a car driven by a police sergeant from 14 Division collided with one of the strikers.
Now he's going to stop. Hey, look at that. Get a picture of the cop, eh?
At the time of the incident, the picketers claimed that they were crossing the street with a green light and that the sergeant's car entered the intersection illegally. Let's look at the video again and keep your eye on the traffic light to see if it indeed was green. As cameraman Matt Phillips gives us a wider shot of the scene, we can see that the signal light is green. The walk sign is on. Gentlemen, if you don't mind, I've got the tape set up for you here to watch. If you want to come up here, and I've made a copy for you as well. Staff Sergeant Tony Baker of Central Traffic, Inspector John Turner of 14 Division over here, and 3 other investigators viewed the CityPulse tape.
Can you get it back to see if that fellow who is up on the hood, did he jump on the hood, or was he actually struck?
Well, let's take a look at it. It looks like he's being pushed forward. That's my...
However, he could have moved. He could have moved quite easily.
He could have moved?
Yes, out of the path of the car.
I understand from the sergeant that when he originally got to the scene, which was a while before then, he did converse with the picketers as to what their obligations and rights were.
Great. 2 other items. Before the incident took place, it is clear some picketers were crossing the road on a red light. As well, later, in an unrelated incident, the man who was struck by the police car received a Highway Traffic Act ticket for obstructing traffic. Sergeant Baker says investigators could have more on the entire affair tomorrow. Lauren Honigman, CityPulse.
Attorney General Ian Scott says he should be off the streets for life. Psychiatrists say he should be castrated. A dangerous offender hearing is underway for 46-year-old Irving Mingo of no fixed address. Mingo was recently convicted of sexual assault and buggery involving a 7-year-old boy. If the Crown is successful in its bid to have Mingo labeled a dangerous offender, he will likely spend the rest of his life behind bars. The hearing is expected to wrap up within a week. A missing North York boy back at home tonight, safe and sound. 9-year-old Thomas Robertson was last seen in the Young Wilson area 24 hours ago. He turned up this morning on Sherburne Street, but he's okay.
One of Canada's harshest critics of the Meech Lake Constitutional Accord speaks his mind a little while from now. Former Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau appears before a parliamentary committee studying the deal. Trudeau has condemned the accord, which brings Quebec into the Constitution, saying it weakens the federal government and gives too much power to the provinces. In the meantime, Canada's premiers meeting in St. John, New Brunswick, are divided over the issue of an October 5th deadline to negotiate a free trade deal with the United States. Ontario's Premier David Peterson says October the 5th is unrealistic because it doesn't give enough time for public input. Peterson will leave St. John, New Brunswick tomorrow to get back on the campaign trail here in Ontario.
With the provincial election just 2 weeks away, Tory leader Larry Grossman is addressing the problem of food banks. Speaking in Metro today, he said he'd like to see the day when food banks become obsolete. But our political specialist Colin Vaughan says Grossman had to face the music later as a guest on a radio phone-in talk show.
Conservative leader Larry Grossman was out and about again today at 1 p.m. at a radio phone-in show where in the main he was well received by the callers, although at one stage he had to answer for the sins of governments long gone, namely the Conservative purchase of Suncor.
That's the largest purchase of stock ever made in Ontario by any government, Mr. Grossman, and don't tell me that it is not.
I just said it was a mistake.
A mistake. What, of my tax dollars, I happen to be a very large taxpayer, and I tell you what, I don't think you guys know anything about stock.
It was a mistake.
A mistake. Great thing. Where's my $600 million gone?
On another issue, Grossman showed again how far he's drifted off his red Tory moorings. December last, the legislature voted to declare Ontario a nuclear-free zone. In a free vote, 15 Tories supported the proposition, 7 were against. Because it was a private member's bill, Grossman did not vote. And today he was asked if he supported the idea. Grossman dismissed the vote and the decision of the legislature as nothing more than a gesture. But what about Ontario companies that manufacture parts for nuclear weapons?
They are going to be produced in North America, and we're not going to throw them out of Ontario. That wouldn't prove anything. It wouldn't stop nuclear war one bit. Wouldn't reduce the armaments race. Wouldn't have one bit of impact.
Later, the Tory leader visited a small packaging plant in Mississauga that Grossman said would benefit with a free trade agreement. Later tonight, Grossman campaigns in Oshawa.
Now for my quote of the day. You may remember Lou Parsons. He was the campaign director and manager for Frank Miller in the last election campaign, in the last provincial election. He was the head of the Tory campaign. Well, he's also the head of Go Transit, and earlier this week he was with Premier David Peterson at the sod turning of a new GO station in Whitby. Here is what he said to Premier Peterson. I hope you leave him there after you get elected, talking about the Transportation Minister. Wonder who Lou Parsons is voting for. Anne, back to you.
Thank you, Colin. NDP leader Bob Rae taking aim at polluters. Campaigning in southwestern Ontario today, Rae said the NDP is prepared to come down hard on polluters and protect those working in polluted environments. He says he'd like to see people who continue to pollute workplaces put behind bars.
If for some reason you cannot vote on Election Day, the advance polls will begin accepting early ballots next week. The polls will be open between 11 in the morning and 8 in the evening, September 3rd, 5th, and 7th. You can also vote at the Elections Ontario office in your district starting Saturday until September 8th, excluding Sundays. Locations of these advance polls will be listed in newspapers across the province. An early check now of what's happening in the streets as we go live to assignment. Here is Lorne Honickman.
Thank you very much, Gord. Western Traffic is still investigating an accident that occurred on Albion Road north of Martin Grove. Police say a Western Traffic car was parked in the eastbound curb lanes of Albion Road with its roof lights and four-way flashers going. A car coming eastbound then struck it, swung around, and hit a pedestrian standing in a driveway. Both the officer in the police car and the pedestrian were taken to hospital with minor injuries. Tonight, Joanne Smith of Downsview is charged with impaired driving and driving over 80. And Western Traffic also investigating an early morning accident on Dixon Road. Police say a car went through a red light and collided with a transport truck that had just come off Highway 427. The driver of the car was trapped for some time. Keith Green was taken to Sunnybrook Hospital, where he is listed in serious condition. Charges are pending. Now let's take a look at the traffic with our eyes west, top of the CN Tower. And as we zoom in, Gardner Expressway near the CNE, we see, as is normally the case at this time, cars coming in eastbound, fine, but you'll find it a little slow if you're heading out to the west end. Speaking of the CNE, Greg Rist is there right now with an early look at the weather. Greg?
Thanks a lot, Lauren. For those of you that have Jays tickets, you'll be happy to hear that there's probably a very, very, very slight chance of any rain. It will be cool. That should keep the beer cool. I'll have more on the weather a little bit later on in the show, but first, an early look at entertainment with somebody who needs no introduction.
Well, Greg, my name is Lance Chilton, in case you're curious, and I may not need an introduction, but I do need 3 weeks on a fat farm because coming up live from the CNE, I blow my diet all to heck. Time now for an early look at sports back at the building, and Jim McKenney.
Thank you, Lance. The Jays are back in town, and so is Rick Leach. We'll have all the latest on that scoop, along with the Olympic trials for the disabled from Brantford. Back to you, Ann.
Thank you, Jimmy. 500 miles down, a few more miles to go. Jocelyn Muir's marathon swim around Lake Ontario is now past the 500-mile mark. The 21-year-old Toronto woman took a short break and a hot shower at Bluffers Park today before plunging back into the water. She's now approaching Ash Bridges Bay. Cold water and 2-meter-high waves are the biggest problems facing Muir during the final stretch.
I can look up on a break, and although I'm cold and, really my body wants to get out of the water, I look up and see the CN Tower and, keep going.
What's that? Okay. Muir plans to complete her lap around the lake by Saturday afternoon.
There is a plea issued tonight for more money to help children in need of foster care. The Ontario Association of Child Care Agencies wants all three provincial party leaders to make the children of this province a top priority. Jojo Chinto tonight with a report on the crisis facing child care agencies, especially those here in Toronto.
The McClellan family of Whitby is an example of how far out Metro child care agencies have to go to find temporary homes for children like Sam. The 16-year-old is just one of 4 foster children, all from Metro, placed in the McClellan home.
What difference has it made to your life being here in the foster home?
Oh, it made a lot of difference because I've learned, I guess, to be a little bit more responsible and to care about myself and I guess to care about others too.
Jan McClellan has 2 children of her own, but she just can't say no to agencies who need foster parents like her.
I'll tell you one thing, I wouldn't want to live in another foster home except here.
Why?
Because as you said, there's not many foster homes like Jan.
I don't think so. There's lots of people out there. Lots of them.
It's just getting them.
How do we get them?
I don't know. I wish I had the answers to that.
According to the people who run child care agencies in Metro, not enough Metro parents are willing to open their homes to children like Sam. The agencies pay a little more than $10 a day per child, depending on the age of the child. For many parents, it's simply not worth it.
I must admit, when I have 4 children here, and plus my 2 children, it can get quite hectic day.
Metro Toronto CAS has lost almost half its foster homes in the last 7 years. In 1980, it had 714 homes. In 1987, there were only 398 homes, a loss of 316, or a decrease of 44%.
Child care officials want the 3 provincial leaders to acknowledge the crisis the agencies are facing and make a serious commitment on doing something about it. The officials say it will take money, double what they are getting now, to compete with private groups providing similar care and getting double the money the agencies can afford to pay from the same funding source, the provincial government.
How much money is that? In our agency, it would represent a total of about $11 to $12 million, and we currently expend about $5 million on foster care.
Jojo Chinto for CityPulse.
Still ahead on CityPulse, thousands of striking miners are fired in South Africa.
Our top international story tonight, an attempted coup in the Philippines. Forces loyal to ousted President Ferdinand Marcos attempted to overthrow the Philippine government today, but their forces were beaten back. The Army's Chief of Staff, General Fidel Ramos, reports tonight that the Philippine government is in control and President Cory Aquino is safe. South Africa's largest mining company has fired more than 18,000 striking black miners. Anglo-American Corporation, which last week let go 7,000 strikers, says more dismissals are imminent if employees continue to defy back-to-work ultimatums. Yesterday, union members voted overwhelmingly to reject an industry offer containing slight improvements in additional benefits, but no additional pay. No new negotiations are planned in the 18-day-old nationwide walkout. 4,000 auto workers have been forced out of their jobs in Norwood, Ohio. James Makawa tells us tonight a 64-year-old GM plant has shut down.
It was a bittersweet occasion, a farewell to GM and their jobs. After 64 years, the plant shut down, sending 4,300 workers out the door.
A lot of hugging going on. Some of you guys you never see no more.
59 years old. Who's going to harm me?
The city of Norwood is suing GM for $318 million, claiming it spent a lot of money to accommodate the auto giant. Without GM, the city will lose 40% of its tax revenue.
The General Motors decided to pull up stakes and run off with a younger gal.
It's one of our oldest GM facilities. It's a 3-story facility in a time when 1 story, or maybe at the very most 2, is considered an efficient operation. And it's landlocked, which makes modernization very difficult.
The final car off the line was a Camaro. One of the assembly line workers will take that car home today after winning it in a raffle. A former GM worker captured the final car on his home video camera after GM refused to let the news media take pictures. James Makawa, NBC News, Norwood, Ohio.
Cautious reaction from the Soviet Union tonight to West Germany's offer to dismantle its Pershing missiles. A Soviet official says it indicates some movement towards an arms control pact with the United States. But he adds the Soviet Union wants to see all the details of the proposal. West German Chancellor Helmut Kohl said yesterday he would scrap the missiles if the superpowers agree to get rid of short and medium-range nuclear weapons. In Moscow, a foreign ministry spokesman denies Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev plans to travel to the United Nations in September. Earlier today, the BBC reported UN headquarters in New York was advised to prepare for such a visit.
A dramatic development tonight in the prison standoff on the Italian island of Elba. Inmates have doused some of their 21 hostages with gasoline and are threatening to set them on fire unless their demands are met. One guard was freed yesterday. He says 6 prisoners are armed with crude bombs, knives, pistols, and gasoline. And the 2 of the hostages have been strung across the windows like crucifixes. The standoff began Tuesday with the inmates demanding a helicopter and a pilot. Another check of the streets now as we go back live to assignment. And Lorne Honigman. Lorne.
Thank you, Gord. North York Fire Department is busy right now at the Powerplex Technology Plant on Wildcat Road near York University. An explosion there and a chemical fire going on. Police have evacuated people in factories nearby. As far as we know, there are no injuries. CityPulse news crews are on the scene. We will have more later. Time now for Toronto and regional crime stoppers. Tonight, Peel Regional Police are looking for 2 bandits.
At approximately 2 a.m., the store manager returned to the Harvey's restaurant to pick something up. As she unlocked the side door, she was surprised by 2 men who ran up behind her. She was forced into the office and told to open the safe.
Open it up. Just wipe the money. Come on, turn around. Not gonna hurt you. Come on, give me the money. Give me the money. Come on, right up there.
The robbers fled with the cash, ripping the telephone from the wall as they ran. Suspect number 1, Mayo Black, 6'2", 250 pounds, in his mid-20s. Suspect number 2, Mayo Black, 6 feet, 190 pounds, also in his mid-20s. Here's how you can help stop crime. Constable Richard Schock, Peel Regional Police.
Help us protect those who work at night. If you know anything about this robbery or any other robbery, call Crime Stoppers. If we make an arrest because of what you tell us, we will pay you up to $1,000 as a cash reward. Remember, as a caller, you need not identify yourself, nor will you be required to testify in court. The long-distance telephone number is 1-800-387-8477, and the local number is 222-TIPS.
Thank you very much, Rick. I'll have more later on Street Beat. Now, Ann, it's back to you.
Thank you, Lauren. Coming up next on City Pulse, the push to rid Ontario of nuclear power.
On Close-Up tonight, serious accusations being leveled at Ontario Hydro. 2 major anti-nuclear groups claim Hydro has a secret agenda to increase the production of nuclear power in Ontario. Jeff Ansell with that tonight.
Both Greenpeace and the Nuclear Awareness Project claim an insider source at Ontario Hydro told them that Hydro plans to build 4 more nuclear reactors here at the Darlington Nuclear Power Plant, and that the provincial government knows of this information and is keeping it secret until after the election.
This was a very serious allegation, and I'd just like to draw attention to the fact that the Premier has made no response to that.
In an open letter to the Premier, the 2 anti-nuke groups asked for Peterson's assurance that his government has not given tacit approval to the Hydro proposal for more reactors at the Darlington plant, located near Bowmanville.
The billions and billions of dollars that have gone into developing nuclear power could have gone into developing solar power. We are building a legacy now that the Earth may never, ever recover from.
Hydro spokesmen admit they are preparing a report now that concerns the future of Darlington.
The report, though, is at a very preliminary draft stage, and it says that one of the options for the future is more nuclear units.
Greenpeace and the Nuclear Awareness Project also want Premier Peterson to commit to a referendum during the next provincial election, not the one upcoming, on the phasing out of nuclear power in the province, as has been done in both Sweden and Austria.
Direct democracy is good enough for those countries. Why isn't it good enough for Ontario?
It's interesting to note that as leader of the opposition, Peterson denounced further nuclear development and called for the immediate cancellation of Darlington, saying the province had enough nuclear power. After taking office, Peterson did a flip-flop on this issue.
They're throwing good money after bad. It doesn't have to keep going.
The no-nukers want nuclear power phased out by the year 2020 for fear, among other things, of a possible nuclear disaster and what could result.
You want a one-word answer? I can give it to you. Annihilation.
The words annihilate are scare tactics used often by critics of nuclear power. There could be, in the worst possible case, a need to evacuate about 2 million people.
The thought of trying to evacuate 2+ million people in a matter of minutes, hours, whatever. It's impossible. It's an impossible scenario.
Jeff, it's not only the production of nuclear power these groups are concerned with. They also want Hydro to be more accountable.
Exactly, Gord. Right now, Ontario Hydro is not beholden to any political or regulatory body except itself. Greenpeace and others think one solution is to give full regulatory power over Hydro to the Ontario Energy Board.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. We're going to hold Greg Rist accountable now for CityPulse weather. Here he is, Greg.
Hey, I don't plan it. It just comes. Looks like we got some cooler weather still coming our way. Also, a slight chance of some shower activity. I'll have more details when I return with the weather.
Hi, I'm Mary Garofalo. Coming up next in entertainment, something to sink your teeth into at the CNE.
I'm a poor slave of appetite.
Now, our CityPulse news test. Which city is hosting the annual First Ministers Conference? If you know the answer, call us at 870-7716. Tonight's third correct caller wins tickets to see Three Men and a Horse at the Royal Alex, September 5th.
This is how things looked earlier on today. People taking a little time out to play a little bit of chess. As for the sun up and sun down times, dawn broke this morning at 6:36. The sun will be setting at 8:04. That'll leave us 13 hours and 28 minutes of daylight, or gray light as it turned out to be. As for the records, we hit only 20 today. That's about 4 degrees shy of the norm and 15 shy of the high they hit back in 1953. Tonight, the temperature dipped down to 14, not quite as cold as it was yesterday, nowhere near the 4 they had in 1870. Let's go live now to the CNE and see what our current conditions are like. The temperature, it's just dropped 1 degree from that high of today. We're now at 19. The wind's quite light out of the south-southeast at 9 kilometers an hour. Relative humidity, nothing to worry about. It's at 50%. And the pollution, it's also quite low. Nothing to worry about there either. It's at 4. That high pressure system that's been that low pressure system that's been bothering us for the last few days is still in our area. It's starting to slide just to the south of us. And as we go to our satellite map, we can actually see where that low pressure system is located. And as I say, it's moving just ever so slowly through our area. And that's what's causing all this gray sky. We were under the influence of a high pressure system a few days ago, which gave us those nice clear skies. But as they go from the high to the low, we get those gray skies and a possible chance of some shower activity. Also, cooler temperatures, as we can see in our Teledon computer graphics showing us those numbers. Up in Muskoka tonight, looking for an 11. Winds are only up to 15. And as far as maximums, they don't get all that better. Tomorrow, looking for about a 20 down in Muskoka, and only 21 in Windsor. The rest of the province in around that 20-degree mark. Tomorrow morning, we can expect some overcast skies. The system that's from that low pressure is basically going to slide just to the south of us. We might get a few showers here and there, or we might get lucky, and it'll just clip us just to the south. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope it does miss us. But it will definitely overcast for the entire duration of the day. Looking for a high of only 19 also. Saturday, 19 once again. Overcast, clearing out slightly. Sunday, we can expect some sunnier skies up to 22. And for Monday, 26, partly cloudy. Tuesday, 26 and partly cloudy once again, improving by the end of the week there. Quickly now to recap, overcast tonight, just the slightest, about 10% chance of any precipitation, anybody going down to the Jays game. Wake-up temperature tomorrow, 16 degrees, more overcast skies. And tomorrow, getting up to only 19 degrees under some gray skies. Now, the weather affects us all, and there's one man who's been here at the CNE every single day since it opened, and that's Kevin O'Leary. He's trying to break a record for Ferris wheel riding. He's been going around and round for 10 days so far. How are you dealing with the elements?
The elements, well, today's the first I've had my canopy up here full time. It's been getting a bit colder and colder, and the weather and stuff. I'm starting to get some windburn on my face, so I'm surviving, but this helps a lot.
Now, what do you do for heat?
What do I do for heat? Self-generation. This is all I have. I don't have the heat or anything in here. I just dress warm.
Now, at night when the temperature drops down, do you have blankets cover up?
At night I have a nice sleeping bag that I sleep in, and that keeps me warm.
What are some of the things you've got up here to keep yourself entertained so you don't go squirrely?
Well, I've got my telephone here. I can call anyone I like. I got a portable television that's under there too. Stereo. I got a squirt gun. I got Lance Chilton with this yesterday. And radio. Everything. I've got everything I need.
Well, Kevin, I've got a challenge for you. 21 days and 10 hours in a Ferris wheel, that's nothing. I'm going to spend an entire week in the food building. Well, I tried to spend a week. I think it lasted about an hour, and that was it. The little donuts, I think they were the ones that did me in. That canopy, by the way, was specially made for Kevin O'Leary and his little Ferris wheel apparatus there, and he's going to need it tonight, getting down to about 14 degrees. And back to you.
Thank you, Greg. Moving along to the world of entertainment, here's Mary Garofalo.
Annie, in some circles, food is a big part of entertainment. Well, at least for today, food has become a big part of our CityPulse entertainment. And our resident connoisseur, Lance Chilton, has more on the tantalizing subject live from the CNE. Take it away, Lance.
Well, you know, Mary, it's pretty well a universal law that in order to throw a really good party, you need lots of food. And, of course, the CNE being a really good and really big party is no exception to the rule, as I found out earlier on today. Now, at 39 cents, Mary Miles' hot dog at the east end of the food building has to be the deal of the day. But don't take my word for it, because there's a bunch of people right over here eating the same hot dogs, and we're going to ask them how they like them. Are you eating the 39-cent hot dog, sir? Yeah?
Yeah.
How do you like it?
Fine.
And the price is right, too, I guess.
Right.
You're going to have 3 or 4 more, and then we can go on a roller coaster together.
Right. You're right.
And you do meet the funniest people in the food building, like the president of the CNE, Mr. Jim Frazier, who's got to be an expert on the food in here. Now, what do you got here, Mr. Frazier?
I got bacon on a bun. Bacon on a bun and a Coke, and I eat here every day. It's great stuff.
And if it's good enough for the president of the CNE, gosh knows that's got to be good enough for humble old me. After enjoying that pea meal bacon, my cameraman Dave Hurlbut's a little thirsty. We'll give him some to drink. Is that better, Dave? Good. And come on, don't finish the whole thing. We'll be on our way then. There comes a time in a story like this when the reporter can do no more by himself, so I've enlisted the help of Tammy and Eli to let me know about this pasta and a few other things. So, manja, guys, let's see what it's like.
All right.
I mean, research is important. True. And the more you do, it's good?
Oh, yeah.
All right, great. You guys can stay because I can't do any of this anymore myself. Well, a little bit. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. We've gone through about 4,000, 5,000 calories together at this point, and you both have full day passes to the rides. So I think right now is an ideal time to go on the roller coaster. What do you say?
I don't think I'm not hungry anymore.
Don't my friends Tammy and Eli look good in green? Well, I've been spending the whole day here in the food building, and I've gone around and I've had a look at what's what, and I've got a list here of actually some of the best deals in the food building. Now, the best deal for pizza is 7-Star Pizza. You get pizza and a slice and a drink for $1.50. If nachos and cheese are more your speed, head over to the Mexicasa booth. You can get nachos and cheese with jalapeno peppers for a mere $1.40. The fish and chips at American Original Seafood are great, $2.65 with a Coke. And my favorite food here at the food building is just about anything from the Falafel Hut Village. Good. And you can wash all that down with a 20-ounce drink of Pure Spring Ginger Ale for, again, a measly 50 cents. And if you like a little dessert with your ginger ale, I would also recommend just over there's something called Ye Olde Fudge Pot. Darn good stuff. And that's it live from the CNE. I'm going to go see if I can squeeze in, say, maybe 6,000 or 7,000 more calories before the 10 o'clock news. Back to you at the building, Mary.
Lance, let me recommend a good fitness club for you. Thanks for the tips. And if you have an appetite for Hollywood gossip, you'll be interested to know that Joan Collins' recently divorced husband, Peter Holm, plans to write a book about his brief life with the star of Dynasty. Holm's agents, Singer and Sullivan, are shopping around for a publisher, but it looks like the book, which will probably be written by a ghostwriter, is at least a year away. Shucks, just in plenty of time to put it on your Christmas shopping list for next year. And the ageless Dick Clark is also involved in a book, the Guinness Book of Records, that is. The American bandstand host for 35 years is being honored by the publication as TV's longest-running entertainment program. The ceremony will take place September 14th at the first Guinness Supreme Achievement Awards. More than 600,000 teenagers have danced before the bandstand cameras since the rock and roll show hit the airwaves in 1952. And another celebrity will join the racing ranks. Miami Vice star Don Johnson, who frequently maneuvers speedboats in his role on the Top Cop show, is scheduled to make his powerboat racing debut this Labor Day weekend. Johnson is taking part in the Budweiser Challenge Cup, a two-day race covering a course from New Orleans to St. Louis on the Mississippi River. Tell me he won't draw a few Southern belles. Queen Street West new waivers, Bratty and the Babysitters have reason to celebrate. The group's video Casual has been selected as one of 5 finalists in the Basement Video category on the U.S. music channel MTV. The winning tape will be determined by a phone poll across America. The winners will be announced 1 week tonight, and victory or not, it will mean plenty of exposure for the Toronto band. Good luck, guys. And if you thought you'd seen the end of Vietnam movies for a while, forget it, because tomorrow, Hamburger Hill opens in Toronto. It's been 5 years in the works, and it's a true account of a tragic day on May 10th, 1969, when troops of the 101st Airborne Division initiated a 10-day assault on what would eventually be known as Hamburger Hill.
I had a stay in Vietnam in 1969. I was there January, February, March of that year, making a documentary for the BBC. Therefore, I think I had an advantage over the majority of filmmakers who perhaps who hadn't been there. But I was absolutely appalled at what was required of those 19-year-old kids, what they had to endure, what they had to suffer. But I was also so impressed by their ability still to love, to grieve.
And what has come out of most of the films, I think, right, and that's going back to Apocalypse and Dear, it shows the soldier as a psychotic, as a rapist, as a murderer, always in a drug stupor, not wearing his helmet. And in truth, they were soldiers. Everyone will have a story to tell about their war, perhaps. And I think this one is very different. And because I think it shows truth. It shows what it's like to be, a veteran said to me, it's the closest he could tell a non-veteran of what it was like to be in Vietnam.
I've seen just about every Vietnam movie out, and I can honestly tell you that this one is probably the most graphic and the most gruesome. And that's it for Entertainment. Annie, back to you.
Thank you, Mary. Sports with Jim McKinney when we come back.
Yeah. We'll try to make this...
Sports is next with Howie. It's the Jays and the A's at the X.
You got that right, Gord. The Tigers are idle, and the Yanks are were rained out this afternoon, so it's a real good chance to make up some ground. Jimmy Key with his first start in 2 weeks up against the A's' Steve Ontiveros. Rick Leach will be in uniform. Here's the latest on the young and the restless.
I think the
the right between the ball club and Rick Leach, and we'll just leave it at that as far as the type of fine, if there is one involved. It's just between the ball club, the Toronto Blue Jays, and Rick Leach.
There are no other circumstances or nothing else has anything to do with what happened except a strong disagreement with my wife and I that was unfortunate. All the innuendos, all the things that people have said, which I'm sure we've heard very few, but nothing else has anything to do with my problem there except in some problems that my wife and I had that we have since straightened out. I'm just glad to be back here, to be back with my family, and to be back with my Blue Jay family. And I have the feelings that we can put everything behind us, what happened, and go from here.
At the Metrodome last night, the Twins up 2-0 in the fourth. The Tigers' Jim Morrison takes Frank Viola downtown. That was good for 3, and it was 3-2 Tigers. Bottom of the inning, Tom Brunansky. A leadoff bomb off Frank Tanana. That tied it at 3-all. Still in the fourth with 2 on, Greg Gagne. Loops Tanana into left. Scoring Ken Herbeck from second base. 4-3 Twins. Moving to the ninth, 6-5 Twins. 2 on, 2 out. 2 strikes on Nat Noakes. Yow. He takes Jeff Reardon to right. 2-run score, 7-6 Tigers. They win it 10-8. Thanks. The Jays are now a half game back. Meanwhile, in Milwaukee last night, Paul Molitor looking for number 40. Rookie John Farrell strikes him out in the first. Then in the third, he grounds into a double play. Bottom of the sixth. He grounds to Julio Franco. He's 0 for 3. Seventh, a roller to third. Pat Tabler can't handle a throw. That's an error. No hit. In the 10th, Rick Manning. Pinch hitting, Molitor on deck. Manning singles up the middle. Runner scores from second. The Brewers win it 1-0, and the streak is history.
Someday when I'm through playing and look back at it, it'll be probably one of my greatest personal satisfactions as far as the game is concerned. The fact that it's, in the top, whatever, whether it's 5 or 6 hitting streaks in the history of the game, realize that you're very fortunate to have this, and I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed having the chance to, to step up to front and center for a little while, and at the same time contribute to our ball club.
Molitor was 2 for 4 today as the Brewers beat Cleveland 4-3. He was 12 hours late with those wins. The World Track and Field Championships begin this weekend in Rome. Ben Johnson and Carl Lewis head-to-head in the 100 meters. It could be a preview of what's going to happen in Seoul next summer. And here's some more of the same. I can think of 100 reasons for coming to Brantford. Unfortunately, 99 of them are out in Calgary for the Canada Cup, but the one remaining more than compensates. The National Games for the Disabled, 265 of the finest athletes that Canada has to offer, priming for Seoul, South Korea next summer. The Telephone City has really laid out the red carpet for this one, and the athletes are responding brilliantly. What was the time on that one?
Well, what I got, it's unofficial, just from, I got 15-2.
15-2, that'd be a new world record, would it not?
Well, I don't want to say that, but if it was, yes.
Claude, congratulations.
Thank you.
Fantastic. We'll see you in Seoul, okay?
You bet.
Yeah. What a run. A 15-2 in the A4 100 would mean 0.7 of a second off the world mark. Claudia's official time was 15.5, an accomplishment Ben Johnson would certainly appreciate. Speaking of sprinters, here's a world-class number, A9 Cyril Stickney from Downsview. 2 golds in last year's World Championships in Scandinavia. Cyril in against the A4s for competition. This heat won by Steve Hoffert and blew by a nose over Ryan Siebel. But Stickney is right on target for South Korea.
Oh, it's going really well indeed.
This is a flat year for you after the Worlds last summer?
Yeah, well, last year was really great, and so we thought we'd just take it a little bit easier this year and then peak for next year.
Fantastic. See you in Seoul.
Okay, thank you.
Here's my ticket to the South Sea Islands. Thunder Bay's answer to Mark Spitz, Kenny Bjorn. Now you got 2 golds here so far. You pleased with your performance?
Yeah, they're both close to best times. And my best events are tomorrow. 50 breast, 100 free, and 50 free. So I intend to absolutely murder those.
So you're peaking perfect for Seoul?
Yeah, I've got times I have to make it to Seoul. And so far, I'm hitting them.
Yeah? So you're still taking me with you, are you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yep, you're going.
No problem, eh?
No problem.
What an athlete. One of my favorites. All right, Kenny. Team Canada made their final cuts today. Scott Stevens and Dave Poulin were dropped from the roster. I wonder about Stevens, but with Gretzky cooking, the Canucks cannot lose this one. Speaking of cuts, the Kansas City Royals axed manager Billy Gardner today. John Wathen is up from Omaha to take his place, Gordon.
A little concerned about some of the cuts Team Canada's making. What about Dave Poulin? Now, there's a guy with desire written all over him.
Yeah, that's a guy that Keenan can afford to cut, though, because it's one of his own guys, so he can make it up to him throughout the season. He's shown a lot of courage keeping a lot of those guys. I hear Rick Tuckett's been struggling a little bit at training camp and through the exhibition schedule, but he can come up real big for them.
They're going to miss Wendell Clark. Mark my words.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Thanks,
He's
Howie.
healthy.
We'll be back in a moment.
Our City Pulse News Test answer. St. John, New Brunswick is hosting the annual First Ministers Conference. Tonight's winner receives tickets to see Three Men and a Horse at the Royal Alex Theatre, September 5th.
With the final check of the streets, let's go back to Lorne Honigman.
Thank you very much, Ann. Update on that chemical fire at the Powerplex Technology Plant on Wildcat Road. The fire is now out. There were reports of no injuries. Have yourself a good evening. That's Street Beat for tonight. Now with a look on what's on City Pulse tonight, here's J.D. Roberts.
Thanks, Lauren. On City Pulse tonight, coming your way at 11, former Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau continues his campaign against the Meech Lake Accord, speaking before a Senate committee. New figures released by the Aviation Safety Board show the risk of mid-air collision is still too high, and there's new problems for the space shuttle. Now for a final check on the weather, back to the Live Eye down at the Grand Old Lady, the exhibition. Here's Greg Rist.
Oh, excuse me. As for the weather, what we've got is the way it's going to stay. Gray skies, looking for a low around 14 tonight. Tomorrow, more gray skies. A slight chance of some flurry activity, some shower activity. Looking for a high around 19. I'm going back to the food building. Gord, back to you.
Thank you, Greg. That's City Pulse for tonight. The next comes your way later this evening. Until then, thanks for tuning in. Good night.
Good night.